Okay, cool. So, okay. So I will slowly say good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. As you can see, I speak. Oh, I need to close this. I speak slowly because I want you guys to get on the call and have the time for that. And as you can see, today is a special day as well because I'm not holding the session from our normal studio, as you can see, but from our New York office at 4 World Trade Center in New York City, which is very exciting. And I can also share with you that I was very pleased for the first time to miss a train because today, for the first time, I came to a subway station to take a train, and I couldn't get on the train because it was packed. So I guess that's a good thing for us today, and shows the beginning, hopefully, of a new era that we all forgotten about a little bit in the last couple of years. I will start by saying good morning to our guests today. I'm very happy to have 3 distinguished guests with us today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each and every one. So I'll start with Graham. Graham Pewter, chairman of Muuvment. He has enjoyed 40 years career in Bermuda's international reinsurance market, and most recently served as CEO of Captain Insurance Company in Bermuda. As an executive, he has long recognized the importance of corporate social responsibility and maintained close oversight of its implementation into strategy. Actively engaged in the non-profit sector, Graham was awarded the Queen's Certificate and Badge of Honor for services to Bermuda in 2014. He now serves as a director on the boards of a number of companies, nonprofits, and foundations. So,
perfect.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, and hi everyone. Hi from Bermuda. It's a sunny day. We're into summer now, and so it's relentlessly warm and sunny. So for anyone viewing that's in a climate that's not quite as favorable, and Zabi, of course, you're in Toronto, where I think things are warming up quite a bit. But oh no, it's a nice day in Bermuda. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Carter, I believe, is also in Bermuda, CEO and co-founder of Muuvment. He has founded and operated diverse businesses and nonprofits in the UK, Bermuda, Canada, and Central America. Business sectors include documentary, film production, publishing of nonfiction books, and finance. He's also served as independent director and chairman of both private and publicly traded companies. In 2011, Kim co-founded TED Bermuda, TEDx, a nonprofit based in Bermuda. In 2006, he founded and chaired Kathmandu Kids Club, and now Cat Kids, a registered charity in Bermuda, which supports children in serious need in Nepal, Africa, and Bermuda. In 2004, he co-founded and chaired 4 international squash tournaments: Bermuda Open 2004, PCA Masters 2005 and 6, and the Endurance World Open 2007. He founded the Children's Health Week initiative, which awarded sports scholarships to underprivileged children, and often led to opportunities of higher education. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you very much. And I'm also in Bermuda. Welcome, everybody. I won't go into the weather because I'm probably 10 minutes away from where Graham is. Welcome, everybody.
And Zabi, who is actually in Toronto, one of our favorite cities in Canada. So Zabi Yaqeen is Muuvement's president and co-founder. Since 2014, he has been dedicated to using media and technology to raise awareness of pressing social problems and building campaigns that generate measurable impact. Prior to that, he worked for 8 years as a commercial litigator and media lawyer in Toronto. He produced and co-wrote the feature documentary film The Price of Cheap, which just started its festival run in March 2021. The film examines the hidden lives of the forced laborers who make our clothes. We follow their fight for justice against corruption, inequality, and the fashion industry. Along with his co-founder at Muuvment, Kim Carter, he also helped produce and distribute the film When Elephants Fight, about conflicts, minerals in the Congo. He believes in the power of volunteerism, volunteering, and volunteers as duty counsel at Artists Legal Advice Service, and as a director for the Abolish Foundation and Spinal CSF League of Canada. So, hi, Zabi.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for being here. And we will, of course, talk about Muuvment, which is a social impact platform. The mission is to help individuals lead healthier and more purposeful life. They've recently released a B2B version of their platform to help companies meet the demands of a new generation of employees and customers. So, good morning, everyone. We have a lot of questions here, so maybe I'll start with my first question to you. What you are building is essentially intended to be a new social media platform focused on social impact. That is indeed a very ambitious undertaking. It's always interesting to hear what prompts founders to create their companies. So please share what motivated you guys to start this company.
Well, maybe Denny, I'll start the ball rolling on that one, and maybe Zabi, you can take over for the latter part of the story. But I guess the seed was sown first in I guess it was 2012, when Zabi was working in Canada in law, and I was ensconced in some non-profits and sitting on boards of some publicly traded companies. And we were both passionate about documentary films, and to cut a long story short, we decided to produce a series of documentaries on global social issues, on topics we felt that weren't really getting enough coverage in the mainstream media. So our first film, as you mentioned, Denny, was on conflict minerals in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we were aghast to learn that 6 million people had died in that conflict. They're still dying in that conflict. Hundreds of thousands of women have been raped every year as a weapon of war, still going on. And so to fast track to our first International Film Festival screening, we were surprised that the overwhelming response from the audience members that they wanted to do something about it. Straight after the film, I remember them coming up to me and saying, you know, what can we do? They were very impassioned about what they had seen, and they wanted to help. And we didn't have a call to action at that point. We subsequently built one and worked with some NGOs, and we actually enlisted the help of actress Robin Wright to come on and help amplify the campaign. But Zabi and I vowed then that we would always have a strong call to action to our films, a meaningful one with measurable action. And that led us to our next film, which is on modern day slavery. Zabi, you're the author of that, and you're also the author of the campaign. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, and how that then gave us the sort of the aha moment to create a social media platform.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kim. So as Kim was saying, when we undertook our next film, The Price of Cheap, about modern slavery and the supply chain of the fashion industry, we wanted to run a campaign in parallel with the film. Because as Kim mentioned, when people become motivated and inspired to do something when watching powerful content, you have to provide them tools right there and then to take an action. Because if you don't do that, a couple things can happen. One is that people shut their screen, leave the movie theater, and they forget about it. The next day, they're confronted with another problem and so on. Our world doesn't have any lack of major challenges right now. Or the other thing that can happen is that people become a bit cynical if they're not provided ways to take action on these issues, because they may feel, well, I'm just one person, what is it that I can do? And so we wanted to create actions, specific things that people could do as after watching the film. And then when we started meeting with other content creators and NGOs, what we realized was that there are a lot of great content creators out there making very powerful media about lots of different global issues out there. And then there are also a lot of NGOs and grassroots organizations doing really important, impactful work on the ground. And what was really missing was a platform where we could bring together content makers, NGOs, corporations, and individuals, and so that everybody could work together and collaborate on addressing these problems. Social media, I think we've all realized in the past 15 years, is an incredibly powerful tool. And even some of the big players out there have had impact on some of these challenges facing our world. But it's a bit of a side effect of the functionality and the networking tools of the platform. And what we wanted to do was build a platform that was dedicated solely to social impact, and that over time it would serve as each individual and each organization's social handle for impact, so that the same way that LinkedIn is an individual's social handle for work, this would be the handle that everybody would use for social impact. The reason I left my work in law in 2014 as a commercial litigator and technology media lawyer was that these problems are really pressing now. There's from inequality to environmental challenges, and that I didn't want to be a bystander, and I wanted to do something and be active. And what we really try to build is a platform so that other people who feel the same way can come together and work in a collaborative way to make measurable change.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add on this point?
Yeah, it might be worth noting that we started with launching the, as you mentioned, Denny, in your intro, launching a B2B side of the platform, and that really allows companies with their employees to run campaigns. And on the heels of that, and that's been recently launched, and on the heels of that, later this year, we will be opening up the platform to the public as well.
Thank you. Now, my next question is this. I know you have talked to hundreds of organizations about social purpose. I'd like to know what the feedbacks have been from them. What have you learned from all these discussions?
I think I'll take that one, Kim, because a lot of the work I do for the company has been with customer development. And my background is, as Denny said, is in international insurance and reinsurance. And as a consequence, I've been able to talk to quite a large number of CEOs and C-suite executives about what Muuvment is building at the enterprise level. And I think we'll go into some detail during the call about precisely what that looks like. But the feedback that I've obtained has been universally positive. I mean, executives acknowledge the need for their companies to better define and articulate their commitment to social and environmental issues. And that pressure is coming from all stakeholder groups, investors, customers, employees. And they also acknowledge that they need to find a way to better communicate to their teams as well. Incidentally, they really like the look of our platform. They like the feel, the functionality of the Muuvment platform, particularly the use of interactive video technology, which is quite different and I think unique to our platform. So that's been very good. For many companies, the main challenge is that they haven't really considered how best to develop campaigns to support these social responsibility priorities, how to engage their employees, how to communicate with them, and probably most importantly, how to measure the impact that their teams generate through the various actions they're encouraged to take. What they have recognized, though, is that there's a very strong positive impact that this proper articulation of social responsibility has on employee engagement. And as companies are all in a battle for talent, the ability to attract and retain people, the best people, this is an important component in this movement and this trend toward social responsibility. So that was sort of a universal response from the companies that we've spoken to.
Thank you. Now, I see some folks joined us since, and as you can see behind me, this is not a picture, guys. This is really New York City. So I'm very happy to be here today, and not my usual background. Which brings me to talk about the pandemic, right? I mentioned earlier on how I was happy to miss a train because it was packed for the first time in 2 years here on the subway in New York. And I want to ask you, how did you respond to the pandemic? How did it impact your organization and what you're seeing around you?
Yeah, maybe I'll chime in here. One of the from a investor point of view, we initially lost a few investors who had pledged. I remember one of them saying that the revenue on all his portfolio, every investment he had in his portfolio, went to zero. So we had a few investors who dropped out. So that was obviously extremely hard on them, but it was hard on us too. Initially, it was also hard to meet with investors. Of course, with lockdown, it was impossible to meet with investors. And in the early stages, they weren't in any shape to do so. And also meet with potential customers. So certainly during lockdown and the very initial parts of the pandemic, that was extremely difficult. Graham, from a sort of a customer point of view, what did you think about that? What effects did it have from a customer point of view?
Well, the enterprise version of the platform that we're building offers companies the ability to develop video-based campaigns to engage their teams, to invite those employees to engage in actions. The call to those actions is embedded in the film itself, and where all that impact data is measured at an individual level and at an aggregate level. That's quite powerful. But what of course the pandemic did was to introduce the whole concept of remote working, which is creating complex challenges for companies, which I don't think are fully realized yet. The nature of work is changing. We read about that every day. But challenges around maintaining culture and a sense of community is a real issue. And I think our products are well positioned to provide sort of meaningful value in that respect. I think also companies recognized the need to better support their people around health and around mental health, because that is a significant issue that is revealing itself now. Most employees being unwilling to even declare that they have issues, and that fact acted as a catalyst for us to develop the health component of our product suite as well. So in fact, that was probably, as Kim said, while management of corporations were distracted and weren't thinking necessarily about corporate social responsibility issues in the early stages of or Q2, Q3 last year, they came back to it. But what they did realize is that they needed a way to better communicate with their people around their health and around their social purpose.
Maybe I'll add something to that, Graham, on the product side. What it meant for us on the product side was that we had to adapt to this new crisis. Our platform was always conceived as a tool to help address the major challenges facing our world, and at that time there was no bigger challenge, and so we accelerated some of the health components of the platform that we had always envisioned, but they were envisioned to be done at some point in the future, and so we accelerated some of those tools and built those out and made those available to some clients. And I think the positive side of it for us was that it did show the versatility and adaptability of our tools to be able to address pressing challenges.
Now, it might be hard to summarize, but if you will try to maybe explain the top 3 things corporates can do to run effective social media, social impact campaign.
Sure, I can take that one, as I've been working very closely with our impact team. I think the most important thing is that for companies not to greenwash, because customers and employees have become increasingly savvy at detecting what's a real impact campaign and what's meaningful and authentic, and what's just a marketing ploy. And for companies who go down this just following the trend because social impact is trendy right now, and they create a campaign that doesn't really have a genuine track of making change, that may backfire on them. So that's one thing that we strongly recommend to our clients and the people that we speak to, is create a campaign that's actually meaningful, because there are no lack of pressing social issues. So find an issue that matters to you and your employees, and work on that. And the corollary of that, as a second item, is really that we encourage companies to create campaigns that are employee-led. And in order for participation to increase on these social impact campaigns, companies need a company-wide buy-in, and that means at every level of staff, management, and other stakeholders. Too often, campaigns on the part of organizations are really driven top-down, and there isn't really buy-in at the employee level, and so the participation rates tend to be very low. And the way to increase that participation rate is to ensure that employees have a real say in the kind of campaigns that are built and launched by the company. And the third thing I would say that's really important is that focus on measuring your impact. A lot of companies, what they do is very nice statements, glossy pamphlets, nice websites about their commitment to social impact and all the good that they want to do. But when you look under the hood, there isn't really much in terms of measurable impact. And so what we recommend to companies is to focus on the impact, because there's no one can take an issue if you're able to demonstrate that through your effort you've planted 500,000 trees and you've removed 2,000 kilograms of garbage from the ocean, and that you've helped protect 20 acres of seagrass, for example. And so measurable impact is the third item that is crucial, and that's why on our platform we really focus on measurable impact.
Thank you. With your work, you follow the social impact space closely, including investments, consumer and organizational trends. Have you noticed any trends that stand out?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, there is one major trend is this shift towards corporate social responsibility and a sort of a journey from CSR, as it's called, to social purpose, which means companies needing to embed certain values into their business strategies to make it more authentic and meaningful. And I think, as we know, there's a lot of money investor money going into impact funds at the moment, however those are defined. But the pressure is coming from investors for companies to adopt sort of ethical approaches to the way they conduct their businesses, whether it's ethical investments, disinvesting from fossil fuel industry, et cetera, ethical supply chains. It's all becoming much more important. But there's a big difference between social responsibility, meaning little more than acts of philanthropy by writing big checks and having a photo op with a large check being presented to charity or charities. That's fine. That's somewhat cynically, that's more about PR. Whereas this journey towards social purpose is very, very different. And actually, as I say, involves those principles being fully embedded in company strategies. And we're seeing companies almost every day, public companies particularly, issuing social responsibility statements. They're actually increasingly required by regulators as well. So CEOs are well aware of the need to act. They're getting pressure from their boards. And there's also, Zabi alluded to sort of younger generations of employees who want to work for authentically values-based companies as well. So this is all a response on pressure on businesses to transform themselves, and it's being driven by all their stakeholder groups.
Now, when we first talked about Muuvment, you said to think of you guys as the LinkedIn. Maybe we didn't mention it, but when I spoke with you guys, we talked about it as LinkedIn for social impact. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I can take that one. The ultimate vision for the product is for it to become a consumer product where this is from the outset when I mentioned it, and what inspired us to build this platform was to create a hub where we can connect individuals, content creators, companies, NGOs, so that they can use the power of social networks to find collaborators, to communicate with one another, and to work together on addressing these major societal problems. And what we wanted was to essentially create the go-to place. So the same way that Instagram is maybe the go-to place for photographs and LinkedIn is the go-to place for everyone for their work, this would be the go-to place for anybody interested in social impact work. And when you add e-learning and a marketplace to that, which are both in our product roadmap, it becomes a very well-rounded hub, we feel, where a lot of the needs from both NGOs and the support they need to content creators to individuals can be housed in one place.
And I know also that the two of you have a media background, and that this platform was intended to respond to a need in connecting social media enthusiasts. Media still plays an important role for you, I can see.
Yeah, definitely. I think our opinion is that video is still the most effective way to educate and inspire audiences about any issue. Sometimes films, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour and a half, is the only time that people sit in front of their screen and watch something attentively. There's good information, good data that people retain more when they watch video instead of reading text. And if you look at every trend in terms of where the internet is going, it's increasingly about video footage. And so for us, beyond video, we've gone to the next step, which is the use of interactive video. And what interactive video allows us to do is that at the peak of somebody's engagement, so when they're watching a film, let's say about plastics in the ocean, at the peak of their engagement, that's when they're able to take an action about maybe reducing their plastic use or participating in a beach cleanup. And so that's the power of interactive video. The data about interactive video is that people tend to spend more time on interactive videos as opposed to the traditional linear video. And then the other element about interactive video is that they will convert to a higher rate. So whether that's an action that you want them to take, like I mentioned, or whether it's for them to purchase an ethical product. Again, there's good data, good early data that interactive video is more powerful for that.
And
Danny, just to
yeah.
interject for a second and just bouncing back to a previous question you had while I've got it in my mind. You mentioned about have you noticed other trends that stand out? One of the other trends I think is remote working that's here to stay. As we all know, companies like Twitter have they announced that 100% of their workforce will be remote working forever, and quite a few other companies came on and announced that, and some said that they would split it between the office and remote working. Others are obviously keen to get back to 100% office, but remote working is obviously here to stay. We all know that, and that brings a lot of challenges to corporates, you know, especially for how to maintain a sort of a sense of community if you're all remote workers, and how to keep your corporate culture together. So I think that's going to be a huge challenge for corporates going forward, and that's what we've seen when we talk to a lot of corporates, obviously in our business, and that's one that keeps coming up. And the trend to have remote working, either 100% or in part, is a trend that's going to continue from now on, I believe.
But I think that's true. I alluded to that earlier. And the fact is that therefore employees need means through which they can feel more connected to their employers. And doing that through our platform, which is just connected through a single sign-on through their corporate intranet, that lets them see messages that are communicated from management around values, around core values, around be it racial justice, be it diversity and inclusion, be it around ethical supply chains, whatever it may be. And doing that in an elegant, sort of visually rich environment is very different from, and certainly for what I've seen in the way companies communicate with their teams. And once you kind of include health and well-being in the same definition, it becomes quite a powerful tool. And I think that's why we're getting the strong response, because whilst there's there are lots of companies in the space of employee engagement, and a lot of companies that might argue that they do similar things, we've not found one that leads with video content, and it resonates very strongly with teams.
Thank you. I hope companies will get back to work from the office. That's my personal, many will disagree with me, but I don't think you can take away the power of people as cultural beings, the flow of information. When you go on your way to the kitchen and you meet somebody and you exchange ideas. And I don't think you have the same energy when you're at home. And I know many would say that we are wrong, but they are the ones who sit at home and enjoy it.
I think you're right. I think the novelty is going to wear off. I think it has impact on productivity. It has impact on innovation, and it's quite complicated.
But I think as also individuals, it's very individualistic. Some people really like working from home, where they've got their own home office set up, and they're maybe not so extrovert. And I know others are absolutely desperate to get back to the office. So you do have two camps, I think, where people really do not want to go back to the office, and some that are itching to do so.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But as Graham says, and you said, Denny, that you can't beat face-to-face dialogue, spontaneous dialogue and camaraderie. And as I talked about before, the culture
And I can say that the people that want to stay at home, we also want them to stay at home. No, they were never the guys we were waiting to see. When is George coming? It's like, oh, it's the boring guy again. So
we never liked him anyway.
Never liked him anyway. You know, he can stay at home.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for everybody. You're right. Some people should stay at home. But anyway, Graham, you were the first external investor in the company, and not too many people know that. When it just started, when you guys just figured out the idea of what you guys want to do, what was it about the idea that compelled you to invest and then get more involved?
Sure. I think as I kind of go through my thoughts there, Zabi, you may have an opportunity to actually put up a few slides once I've finished. You can talk a bit about how the platform looks and feels. Yeah, I had actually, Kim and I have been friends for 30 years, and I followed the work that he and Zabi have done in the filmmaking sphere and invested profitably, I have to say, in the first of those films. So I was attracted to their vision for a public platform, as we described it, the LinkedIn for social impact, and their passion and commitment to making a success of the company was impressive, and it's been infectious. And as founders, as you would expect, they're working incredibly hard to make the company succeed. I did recognize, though, from my own work experience, that millennials and Gen Zs that are going to be the majority of the workforce soon, if they're not already, think differently. They believe in collective action. They're increasingly activist around social issues. They don't trust governments. They don't necessarily trust corporations, and they want to build their own personal brands. But they do want to work for values-based companies where those commitments to social and environmental causes are authentic. You know, in a job market that's normalized as opposed to perhaps where we are today, you know, I found the brightest of young graduates that I might get to talk to challenging me. Why should I come to work for you? What makes you different? These are very real conversations, and companies are in a real battle for talent, because in financial services, having capital and having strong credit ratings is just a prerequisite for being in the game. The human talent is what it's all about. So I felt that there were challenges associated with Muuvment going straight to a B2C platform. And we can talk a little more about that if we have time. But I did recognize this behavioral shift in the corporate world, and here was an amazing opportunity to first launch an enterprise version of the product. And this was discussed at length, and Kim and Zabi agreed, and off we went. And so I got my checkbook out, and I'm having a great time being part of their team.
Thanks, Graham. And this may be a good segue into talking about what makes our platform a bit different. Naturally, when we started, we had a vision for what we wanted to do, but we backed that up with a lot of research in the space about what other companies were doing, and I think the three elements that really stand us out, and I may just share my screen here and show just a few slides. I won't attempt to do a demo on a group call like this, but just to share maybe a few slides. I think the three things that really distinguish our offering from anything else out there is firstly interactive video. And I spoke a bit earlier about the power of interactive video, and what you see on the screen is that at the peak of the engagement, that's when there's an option to take an action on the part of an employee or an individual. And there's good data that if people don't take an action right there and then, their likelihood of taking action really starts going down the longer after their interaction with the content. So this is one of the core offerings of our platform, interactive video. Secondly, it's this is just a campaign page around ocean health, but it's that our campaigns are both private and public. So a company can run a private campaign with just its employees around, let's say, plastics in the ocean, which is a campaign we're launching soon. Or it can also make that campaign available to its customers. And naturally, there are benefits to making that available to customers, because those customers increasingly expect companies to be positive social actors in the world. So this becomes a way for them to connect with their customers around shared values. And most of the other platforms in the space that are making this kind of offering for companies don't have that private and public campaign functionality. And then thirdly, it's around, we spoke a bit about being the LinkedIn for social impact, but it's that all those social networking features. Obviously, this is just a slide. We would be happy to get on a call with anyone who's interested and do a proper demo of the product. But this speaks a bit to what we talked about of building the social handle for impact. So imagine an environment where each individual company, NGO, can list the impactful work they've done, the issues that they care about, their track record, and this becomes a way for any individual to learn about somebody else's volunteering and impact, or that of an organization or a company that they may want to work for.
I think, Zabi, on that front, it's really important that for companies to be able to not only measure the impact that their social, environmental issues are having, but then publicize them as well. And our platform basically allows an aggregation of all the impact of individual employees from multinational around the world, and that can be displayed as a link on their website. So we're seeing in annual reports, we're seeing extensive reporting done on corporate social responsibility. So we bring a lot of automation to that journey as well. And as Zabi showed there, companies can run multiple campaigns. As I mentioned earlier, there might be one around ethical supply chains. There might be one around racial justice, which is clearly an enormous issue. They all appear on the platform, and it's a very powerful way to engage employees.
Now, and so far, you managed to get so far by raising external investments. I mean, this is I know now you are raising capital, but so far, how did you get to this point? Did you have any investment rounds? Is it more like friends and family so far?
Yeah, most of the investors to date have been friends and not institutions. We've had 3 investment rounds so far. This is our 4th, and we're raising. Maybe Zabi, have you got a slide on the current ask? Maybe we can talk about that a bit. But the current ask is for 1.5 million, and the minimum investment is 100,000. As you can see on the screen there, it's a safe instrument that converts at 15 million valuation cap, or that of the pre-money valuation, whichever is lower. Yes, we've raised, I think it's 3.5 million to date, and this particular round allows us to further our development, expand our sales, and meet the milestones that we need to get to our valuation at our first seed round. Did I miss anything there, Zabi or Graham?
Good.
No, Kim, that's fine. I wouldn't say that's 3.5 million, Kim. We've raised over 3 safe rounds in the last 2 years.
Yep.
Something like that. And we've used personal networks to bring investors in at higher tickets as we've done each round, and as we've nudged the valuation of the company up.
And we have a couple of questions, but before that, just, those who want to get involved, how do they, what's the best way to reach you guys? I mean, obviously we're going to send, this is recorded, and we will send your contact info to both those that made it and those who couldn't make it to this call. Yeah, but what's the best way?
Zabi's put it up there again. So obviously at invest@muuvment.com, can email us directly, or through you, Denny, obviously. But the easiest way is just to email us at invest@muuvment.com.
Now,
and I'd just like to say, Denny, that what we'd love to do is anybody interested on this call who would, Graham mentioned, would like to see our products in a live demo. We found that that's the most powerful way to understand the product, see the power of it. And we're very much welcome anybody who has an interest to see the product, a live demo. We can do it by conference call. And it really is a lot better than just putting up a couple of fixed slides like that, when you can actually see the product live.
Yeah, I think to expand on that point, Kim, our sweet spot in going after corporates are probably companies with 500 to 2,500 employees. We talk to a lot of major corporations as well, and surprisingly, even some of the largest. We talk to the Big Four accounting firms, for example. They actually don't have a tool that looks or acts like Muuvment platform, and so several of those conversations are ongoing. But typically, for companies in the 500 to 2,500 employees range, there's a recognition that they have to do something to act on this trend to focus on social purpose, but they don't quite know how to go about it, or they lack the internal resources. Our platform, which is a SaaS product, so we're charging a subscriber fee per user per month, over which we lay the content. So we can originate campaign content for companies. We can repurpose existing materials that exist, and the companies are quite interested in that as well. So that's just to kind of give a little bit of context. But to Kim's point, almost without exception, when potential customers see the platform working, then there's a uniformly strong response. And we're getting the same from potential investors as well. It's a very powerful, visually rich experience.
Now, a couple of questions from the attendees here. How much do you charge for this platform? What's the model really? How does it work? And maybe also, is it operational yet or not? So maybe these two questions.
Yeah, I can take that one. Yes, it is operational. We have a couple of clients, so it's been recently released. So it is being actively used. And the model is a per user per month model, and based on the level of functionality, because we have a couple of different modules available. It's between $2 to $5 per user per month.
And you mentioned that a little bit, but I see a question about plans for the future, and maybe another question: which markets do you target? That maybe is alongside this question.
Sure. So in terms of the markets, we're starting with the UK, the US, Canada, and Bermuda, and really heavily targeting the knowledge sector. So that's financial services, companies, law firms, other technology companies who tend to be earlier adopters of new initiatives, because they themselves are in that space. And then in terms of company sizes, really companies maybe smaller than 2,500, but as Graham mentioned, our sort of sweet spot is Graham, did you say 500 to 2,500?
Yeah, yeah.
And then in terms of plans for the future, we have a very ambitious roadmap. And so we started off initially as launching the B2B side of the product, even though we had built out the consumer side, and then we adapted that and built and launched with the B2B for some practical reasons that we can get into. But soon towards the end of this year, we'll also make some of the public functionality available. And then the longer sort of aspects on the product roadmap are really around, and they're not that long, I would say. Also within this year is launching the e-learning functionality. So we have educational content and so on, but creating that more into sort of e-learning and courses. And the reason that's powerful is that organizations who run campaigns, let's say around diversity and inclusion or first aid training, we're working with a company around that right now actually, is that they can also provide opportunities for their employees to complete training around those issues. So we're building out that training module, and then the other big piece of it is the marketplace. So again, marketplace of ethical products. Again, for anyone who's been paying attention to this space, that market is really booming because consumers are demanding that companies provide more ethically sourced and developed products. So adding that component, I think that will keep us, those three elements will keep us very busy over the next couple of years.
I think, Zabi, too, that the reason for going B2B was that the user acquisition costs to get eyeballs to a consumer site is very, very high. And building content for a public platform, because the public platform also envisages a library of social impact film that has to be purchased, and we would be competing with other organizations and companies that are backed by a very, very deep pocket. Going B2B, or in fact, if you think of it in terms of going B2B to C, we're accessing users through our client companies' employees. And that's a very effective way of growing a user base, and those users will stay with us when in due course we launch the consumer site. And in fact, an employee would keep their personal profile when they move from company to company. And that just creates sort of a critical mass that just made a lot of economic sense for us.
Are the investments you are requesting considered a donation and is tax deductible, or are the investments a vehicle for making profits?
Wow. Notwithstanding the fact that we each care passionately about social issues and are engaged in social issues filmmaking and in the nonprofit world, this is 100% completely and utterly a profit-making enterprise. And of course, our investment deck, which is obviously available to anyone that would like to see it, goes into detail around far more detail around the building of the business and traction around onboarding customers and around valuations and potential exits. So we just recognized there wasn't a lot of time today to dive down very deeply, Denny, into any of the specifics, but we're very much a for-profit business and looking to take a superb team of people with a superb product at absolutely the right time into riding this wave of behavioral change in the corporate world. And it's overpowering, from Larry Fink's letters to shareholders from BlackRock, from 180 corporate CEOs from the Fortune 500 taking a full-page ad in the Journal last year, making a commitment to this social change. This is really happening, and we're offering companies a way to use the power of video to best communicate these initiatives to their people. So it's a mega trend, and we're right on going to ride that wave.
And so it's definitely a for-profit company, but with a social purpose. And I see in the Q&A twice came up, what's the minimum investment? It's $100,000 is the minimum investment for this round.
Now what? Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, my next question here: what traction have you achieved to date? How many pilots have you done? How many clients have you done? That's pretty.
I can take that one. We've signed 4 clients actively using the product. We initially started with 2 pilots. One of those pilots was with one office of a multinational with about 1,100 employees, and we're now negotiating and planning the rollout to their entire company. And so that could be a pretty big ticket item. Of just that on its own is about, we're estimating about $75,000 per year for that for that one client. So good early traction, but we are still building our sales team, and part of the funds from this round is intended to help us build our sales team. One of the things that we're doing in terms of our go-to-market strategy is using the thought leadership trusted advisor approach, which requires time to build brand awareness, to help provide value to potential leads at every step of the sales process. And so we're taking our time to build a robust pipeline that where we can replicate the sales approach.
What's
Yes,
the minimum?
Denny just started. All the sales traction we've had so far, Denny, has been with the internal team, and we're just putting the sales force together now, as Zabi says. So they will be effective in July, but up to now we've been using just our own personal contacts. We've got about 37, I would say, sales qualified leads where we're having meaningful conversations, and they're sort of all at different levels of the sales pipeline. But 4 under contract today, and others coming up hard on the heels of those.
What's the minimum investment size you're seeking?
It's $100,000 US for this round.
Right. So I think we pretty much got the questions from the audience. Maybe I'll finish this by asking you guys a question about what surprised you during this journey. So maybe Graham, I'll start with you. Given the amount of exposure of social impact, how ill-prepared companies are when they start thinking about it?
Yeah, that's my answer. I think I've probably been hammering this to death in the last hour, but it's a fact that their companies are ill-prepared. I'm not talking about major corporations. I'm not talking about JP Morgan. I'm not talking about the AXA insurance group or PwC with hundreds of thousands of employees. But most companies, particularly in that size category I described, 500 to 2,500, they're really not prepared for this. As an example, I saw a London market survey that was done of 40 insurance companies and insurance brokers. Sorry about banging on about the insurance industry, but it's what I know. Of those 40 companies, 80% of them had no formal policy in place around social and environmental issues. And most of those conceded that any activities they had in place were ineffective. So there were the hands went up from a survey that covered quite a significant number of good-sized companies. They weren't there, but they just recognized that they need to move. We talk to HR departments, and they tell us the same things. Companies are starting to create the role of a chief sustainability officer or a head of corporate social responsibility. That it's important that this function has buy-in from the C-suite. Otherwise, it sort of lacks real heft. But we're looking to change that. We're looking to help companies to move them along on that journey. But that was what surprised me, how ill-prepared many companies are.
And Kim, how awareness of corporate social responsibility has changed over the last couple of years?
I beg your pardon?
Hiring, Kim. You were talking about hiring, I think, one of your issues.
Oh yeah, I was most surprised at how difficult it is to build a first-class team with an early-stage company. Of course, we've got no HR department, so we don't have that facility in an early-stage company. And when we made obviously a few mistakes with our hires, I forget who said, you know, if you're going to make a mistake, make them fast and don't make them again. So we've tried to work on that mantra. And managing remote team has been a challenge as well. So that was obviously a surprise we weren't expecting because of the pandemic. But you know, we put a huge amount of effort into assembling our team that we've got together now. We think it's a terrific team, but it was a big challenge, and I think I got a few extra gray hairs doing this, but it was worth it.
So Kim, what are your you talk about the 5 CEO health checks. What are the things, the boxes that we need to tick every day? What the kind of the recipes for success?
Well, a team is one of them, obviously. The product and making sure your product development team are skilled to take it to scale. We have a fantastic product development team with robust architecture and ready for scale. Obviously, financially sound. You have to have that.
I think risk mitigation as well.
Yes, we've structured our company in such a way for an early stage company that we believe we've mitigated risk on the downside, given that all our core team are here to stay. We've Graham, Zabi, myself, our CTO, our CPO, and other members of the team aren't going anywhere. And we have the ability, you know, if we hit some major bumps in the road, we can turn our spending dial right down to a drip if necessary. But right now, we've been luckily that we've oversubscribed on every single funding round we've had, which has given us the ability to keep our dial up and forging ahead with a full throttle.
And maybe the last one, Zabi, I want to ask you how poor participation is on the part of the employees in their company's CSR initiatives, how poorly engaged they are, and how little is being done to address that. Maybe that's what you can tell us about what surprised you here.
Yeah, sure. And not to end it on a negative note, but it's been one of the surprises that I've seen is that how little participation there is on the part of employees at companies. I've spoken, and again, I've had hundreds of calls, maybe at this point 1,000+ meetings over the last 8 years with companies and organizations, and I was surprised in some instances where you have senior executives at companies who aren't even aware of the social impact campaign of their own company. And participation often ends up being once a year, there's a funding drive from a United Way or something, an employee gives $20 and that's the end of it, and they don't hear anything about it after that. So participation rates on social impact campaigns have traditionally been really low at companies, and there are a couple of reasons for that. We touched on some of them. One of them being that Companies really need to involve their employees in creating these campaigns. It can't be a top-down measure only. They need company-wide buy-in. And what the leadership can do is really champion these initiatives. It can't be a checkbox exercise. It has to be genuine and meaningful and the impact measured. And that's what we try to deliver. That's the value that we try to deliver. That's what we try to solve for on our platform.
So thank you for that. And it seems like you guys have a lot of work to do because again, when we spoke before, asking you what surprised you, a lot of stuff surprised you.
Sometimes in a good way.
Yeah, but you're saying companies are ill-prepared, employees are not engaged as we want to see them, even though they would want to, and awareness. But I think awareness in general, you see they've grown tremendously. I think COVID also, got us more into understanding the importance of what's going on. And got people engaged. So I think
that's why we have such a great opportunity. I was saying to Kim and Zabi yesterday, with a colleague was doing a demo to a large corporate, and I said, I wish I'd recorded the reaction of the management team when they saw the platform, because you think I'd be exaggerating, but they were just loved what we're doing. And that's why we would reiterate, if you'd like to learn more about what we're doing, we can provide you with not just an investment deck, but also an interactive video that we've produced that really tells the story, and the power is actually seeing the product at work. Showing stills is fine, but it doesn't really give any real impression of what the platform looks like when it's working in real time. So
maybe I can add one more thing, Denny, to your comment about increased awareness. There has been increased awareness, especially with social media sharing and so on. But one of our mantras here is that awareness is not enough. Awareness doesn't necessarily need lead to change. It is a necessary component of it, but then you have to take that awareness and turn that inspiration into measurable impact. And that's what we focus on.
And that leads us right back to the very first opening about the film on what started this whole thing was our films, like the film on the Democratic Republic of Congo, and how we were creating awareness, but there wasn't the opportunity for people to really do something about it that's meaningful with measurable impact.
Well, thank you very much, Graham, Kim, and Zabi. It's been very interesting. And I'm very pleased that I didn't use my phrase sentence live from Rye, because now it's live from New York City that you see behind me. So we got a beautiful day today. Thank you so much. We will, this session is being recorded, so those of you who would want to see this, view it again, we'll send you the link and the contact to reach you guys. So thank you all for being here. We hope to see you in person at our events that are coming right after the summer. So thank you for now, and we will definitely stay in touch.
Thank you, Denny.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.